Sorry.
Yeah. Welcome to the 2025 year-end special. As you can see, the Midnight Monster makes his final appearance. Thank you all for watching my Daddy Raven show. I liked being seen on screen, but I was too sick to stay. Please don't let my leaving hurt my daddy too much. Now that I'm gone, he will need people to believe in him again so that he can be his best self. I will miss being seen, but remember me and I will always be here. And there you have it.
Cheers to the Midnight Monster.
Hear, hear.
Hear, hear.
For those who don't know, might be watching in first time or didn't know Midnight. He's my cat, and he was dealing with polycystic cancer for a year, and we knew it was coming, and it was just time. It was just kind of lousy that it happened right before Christmas, but it is what it is. I'd rather he go not be in pain, So, anywho, I hope your holidays were good. We're here at the end of the year. It was time to discuss the year in review and what we thought best comics we reviewed were this year. So let's start with how crappy the year was. So 2025. I think many of us would have liked to throw it in the trash. Yes.
Absolutely.
It's been an extremely rough year for the world over. We're not going to talk about the political scene or its adverse effects on our daily lives. I think we all know full well what's up with that. And ranting about that isn't going to change things or make us feel particularly better. And with today's government, who knows, we're probably watching on the dark web. What? You're too damn good to subscribe to my channel. In the comics world, however, we witnessed and continue to witness the demise of Diamond Distributions, ending an era of over 3 decades being the primary, if not considered the only real source of comics distribution in North America. We also have witnessed the boycott and cancellation of the Angoulême Comic Art Festival for 2026, which is now to be replaced by the Le Grand Off for 2026 with 113 mini events over 3 days on the same dates of what would have been the Comic Art Festival, spread around France and many different locales at the end of next month. So at least there's a sort of a good news that they've found a counter programming to that, but it is still a shame that individuals' greeds have ruined comics the world over. Mm-hmm. But, that is what it is. In my world, projects were promised and then taken back by publishers. I had a medical incident in summertime, which could have bankrupted me, but the hospital politely wrote that off when they saw how bad my year was otherwise, I think. My father's health is continuing to diminish. And, of course, as you saw at the beginning of the show, my beloved Midnight has had to leave us. So it's truly been an ugly year. I know Chris has had his issues. I don't know if he wants to talk about them.
Yeah. It's been a rough year. I've been in the, hospital a couple times with sepsis. Mm-hmm. So, but I'm not going to look back and dismay over the horrors of the past year. I'm going to look forward to 2026 as a better year. And for me, at least, I'm going to try and make sure it is the year of mo money, mo money, mo money.
Yeah, we all need that, right? And of course, John got the really bad news at the tail end of the year, right before Christmas too. Tell everybody what you found out at church.
Oh, so for those who don't know, for almost 20 years, I've been the pianist at my church, and I found out that they now want the pianist to be a volunteer position rather than a paid position. So starting in January, my income is going to decrease until June or July, at which point I will no longer receive an income from my church anymore.
And that stinks.
Mm-hmm. And can I ask, did you have a change in leadership at the church recently?
We had a new worship leader come in, whom actually I really like very much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just wondered, because usually when there's a change in leadership, budget, things like that do change.
Yeah, new trustees,
Yeah. Anyway, so you can see we're all kind of like at the end of the year, just like, can 2026 be an improvement?
Hopefully in 2026, John, you see a lot more musical theater work.
I do actually have some musical theater lined up already. So
very nice. So
okay. So let's go ahead and move on. And what were the best comics of the year? And did it make us feel any better? Let's find out. Our honorable mentions of the year, Chris.
Yeah, Howl. This was a really well done, very quirky comic. When I first heard the title, I was like, "Oh, okay, it's about werewolves." No, it's not.
Nope.
It is about. It is a weird, like retro body horror alien invasion type book. But like I said, it's extremely well done. I did enjoy this series. So,
John.
So my honorable mention is Venom Lethal Protector, which yes did come out in 2023, but it was when the series was backlogged, and I just got around to it at the beginning of the year. But I put it here because, as people know, Venom's my favorite character, certainly my favorite Marvel character, and this series was proof that nobody writes Venom like his co-creator David Michelinie, and it was just to see the character kind of go back to his roots. And it was, it was just an all-around great miniseries. It also introduced me to the artwork of Ivan Fiorelli, for which I am grateful. So there you go.
And then my honorable mention from Bowtie Press is the anthology magazine Spakow by Jamie Jones and Friends. Jamie has been doing this as a self-published book. It usually comes out like quarterly, I think. He started it in 2024, and the last issue, I believe, was issue number 4 in summer of 2025. And we had Jamie on the show to promote the series, and you can get it at powerpulp.com. It's just a really fun tour de force type of book with comic strips and comic stories, full-fledged comic stories done by Jamie and others, with that kind of classic pulp feel to it. Has a little bit of the Eisner and the Wallywood and a little bit of European flair to it in his style. So just a really fun book.
There's a little bit of Warner Brothers in there too. So like, it's got the very traditional exaggerated stretch and bounce poses and stuff like that. Like Jamie knows what he's doing. So
I agree. Okay. So those were honorable mentions of the year. This will be a real interesting start with what are our top fives, though. Chris? Actually, that's not correct. Let's see what's going here. Oh, I see what it did. All right, there we go. There's our fifth book. There you go, Chris.
All right. So The Pale Knight. If any of you remember, I started out really enjoying this book. This is from Mad Cave. And this is a tale of a knight in the midst of a plague. And he makes a deal with death to save his son. And so it's his travels and his what do they call him? Squire, yeah, sorry. And his squire throughout the country trying to fulfill his promise to death to save his son. So the series overall is really well done. I love the art, the color, everything is just enhances the book. The ending took a hard left turn.
that ending was not where you're supposed to be end up. How did I end up in Albuquerque?
Right, exactly. Yeah, okay. Left turn at Albuquerque. Yeah, what happened here? Yeah. So, and that is why, for the most part, ended up at number 5 for me.
Okay. All right. John.
All right. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Saturday Morning Adventures. And really, this was number 5 simply because there had to be a number 5. It's not really that I thought any less of it than any other of my picks, but this has just been, this series has been top of the line from the very beginning. I love that Eric Burnham has written every single story. And he's just done a great job. It's very, very witty, very funny. I've been loving the artwork. I prefer Sarah Myers' artwork, although Schoening's artwork really does capture the feel of the early animated episodes, but this series, like pretty much every series I'm going to talk about, is done by a team that really understood the assignment. And I've reviewed several titles this year based on animated series that did not pass muster, like the Herculoids and Space Ghost and Blue Falcon and Dynamite. Like a lot of these series, despite
the popularity of from other people that would say that they're wonderful books, they've adulterized them. They're not in the true tradition of what the books.
Yes, and made creative decisions that I just don't understand. But this one, I mean, they really hit the bullseye, and I love it.
Okay. My number 5 book of the year is Escape from Image Comics by Rick Remender and Daniel Acuna. This is the anthropomorphic World War II storyline where the pilot crash lands and has to try to get home safely in enemy lands. And it started about, I think we're on issue 5 or 6 now, but just really beautifully rendered art by Acuna. And, I haven't seen Rick Remender really do as sharp of a job on a book in a long time as I have seen on Escape. So very impressed with this one. Okay. Our number 4 books.
All right, this is The Slasher's Apprentice. This is another one of those books that, you know, I was instantly hooked. The art is appropriate, the colors are you know, very, very appropriate. They draw you into the story. I at least thought the story was extremely intriguing and interesting at first. Lewis, on the other hand, he's like, yeah, I know what's going to happen.
I knew right off the bat.
And so, but I was happy enough to blithely follow along. And even though it did turn out exactly as Lewis said, you know, so again, that's another one that it started out really strong and just took a left turn somewhere. And so
I don't know if it took a left turn. I mean, in terms of what you were expecting of it, I think it was solid all the way through. It was just for me, because I knew what was going to happen, I was like, yeah, let's get over it with it.
Right. Well, you know, by the end, but by the last issue, I was also like, okay, yeah, I know what's going to happen here. So that is why it ended up at number 4.
Mm-hmm.
All right, for me, it was Street Sharks by Stephanie Williams and Ariel Medell. So I was a big fan of the original cartoon from the 90s, you know, but, you know, I will concede that while it was an entertaining show, it wasn't a perfect show. You know, it didn't always have the visual consistency. But what I really think that these two did was they took, you know, the best aspects of the show and they improved on it. You can tell we're both fans of the show, and I think they really did a great job. Especially in the artwork. You know, the original cartoon didn't always have visual consistency because it was farmed out to more than one animation house, and believe me, in some episodes it showed. But Ariel Medell's artwork is just wonderful, like just absolutely wonderful, and it's consistent. And I just love the way they treat the characters. You know, the bad guys are a cut above your, you know, dim-witted henchmen. I like that they dealt with issues like, you know, the property destruction that the street sharks always inadvertently cause, and, you know, the public's perception of the street sharks, which, you know, were issues that are always front and center, you know, the nature of them fighting the bad guys. But I just think they did a wonderful job with this series.
Yeah,
It's always good when the artist is able to stay on model and the writer is able to stay on model too, with, you know, what the series is supposed to be. So
yes.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, there's a lot of. Hold on a second. My phone just went nuts for some reason. What's going on here? No. Poo-poo. Anyway. What was I? With Medell, it's not just that he can keep the characters on model. He has a sensibility to, even though I don't think his storytelling for like all the fight scenes is always the best, because he kind of gets into this weird thing of just showing different action poses with no background. But he knows how to make the sharks have an active fluidity about them when they're in motion, whereas even in the animated series, partly because of the different houses, the characters look turkey jerky sometimes, like they didn't really move the way they should.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's one of the better aspects of this book, is that he seems to be able to understand how to make the characters move correctly and with fluidity for what those designs are. And that's not an easy thing to do. So,
No, it's not. There's artists out there that just certain artists that have a knack for that animated style.
well, it's not just the animated style. I mean, it's just, getting the foreshortening and the other things just to get the motion of position bodies and stuff. I mean, you could do that. It doesn't have to be animation per se. It's just in general. There's a lot of people who are not good at drawing characters in motion. They're just floating in space, shall we say.
Right.
So anyway, that was number 4 for John, and mine was Mouse Guard, Dawn of the Black Axe from Archaea Boom, written and colored by David Peterson and illustrated by Gabriel Rodriguez. Mouse Guard is one of the best fantasy comics there is on the market, and this was just a really cool story where the Black Axe guardian mouse had to battle against the snake, and had the ghost of a deer as his companion, and it was just a really fun story. A lot of people overlook this series because of the format. It's got a weird, so-called quote unquote weird format, because it's like 6x5 or something like that instead of the traditional 6.65 by 10x5 or whatever. But I wish more people would give more attention to this book. But
I personally, and I've mentioned this before, I love the fact that the artist had the wherewithal to, like, not just draw your typical, like generic snake. He made this thing a hognose. And not just like, your typical rattler or cobra or something like that. He chose a very unique, interesting looking snake to use.
Mm-hmm. John, thoughts?
So I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at this picture looks amazing.
Yeah. So, all right, number 3.
All right, this is 1,000 Storms from Magnetic Press and Tony Sandoval, and I was absolutely blown away by the unique art style. I had never heard of Tony before, but instantly fell in love with his art. The story was very engaging. It was very, I don't know, would you call it whimsical, Lewis?
Yeah, that's a good word.
Okay. Yeah, it was very whimsical, very, like a teenage girl coming into her own imagination type story. So highly, highly recommended. I absolutely love this book, and definitely going to be looking for more of Tony's work in the future.
Yes. This was a 2025 re-release, apparently, through I think we came across it through a crowdfunding thing of Tony's, and we missed it when it originally came out in 2021. So that's why I made the mention of it in that, because some people might think we're talking about an older book, but the watercolor work on this is masterful. And one of the reasons I understood why you picked this was because there's just so few people who are really doing watercolor work, traditional American comics. And of course, Tony's not an American per se. He's he's overseas, but we need more types of books in this, not necessarily in this specific artistic style, but more traditional watercolor, more traditional painterly styles, as opposed to the computer rendered heavy overused styles that we've seen in the market in America. I think that's part of what's stagnating the market. And I know, like, when I say that, of course, Chris works as a computer colorist, but even
I still 100% agree. So yeah,
I know you do, but no, the thing is, you can still do this kind of watercolor effect in computer.
Yes,
but you have to understand what the style is. You have to understand what the effects are and how to do that via technology. And to do that, you have to learn it traditional and learn how to convert that over. And
right.
I think way too many younger artists are just becoming overly reliant on computer tech and don't have the traditional abilities. And that's why I was like really happy that you picked this book, because it really is an exemplary of someone who does it traditionally, and we need to have more of that representation in our industry.
Yeah, and I mean, hell, I can pick the number of watercolor artists, in comics that I know, like, on one hand. Like, is Lynn Varley still working?
Yeah.
Was Bill Sienkiewicz?
Colleen Dorn.
Yeah, Colleen that works in watercolors. Yeah. So there's just very, very few, but the ones that do it well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them, but it's like you don't really know them as that, because a lot of them are just, well, like Lynn. I mean, yeah, she does do watercolor work. She can paint, but she's more known as just doing watercolor as a colorist.
Right.
Whereas, I mean, Jill Thompson can do it. Watercolor, no problem. In fact, a lot of her stuff is watercolor and pen and ink. But like you say, there's just a lot of them that aren't really celebrated and marketed as well as they could be and should be. So, okay, let's see what John picked for his number 3 book.
Watership Down. So, as I said in my original review, I had never and still haven't yet read the original prose novel by Richard Adams, but I was familiar with the story through the classic animated movie. So this was a gift from Lewis, actually, and it was a bit of a departure for me. This is not something I would normally read, but I absolutely loved this book. The story of Watership Down, it deals with death and loss and oppression, all these universal themes, and it tells a story so beautifully through this warren of rabbits. And it's a story that everybody can relate to on some level, because we've all gone through the things that these rabbits go through. And the artwork, I don't have my notes in front of me, so I don't remember exactly how the artwork was produced, but it was mixed media, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Plus, the book,
it's a combination. It's a combination of watercolor and colored pencils, I believe. I know
and gouache, I think.
Yeah, and gouache. You're right. Yep.
So it's just absolutely beautifully done, and the whole book is just a very handsome volume. And in addition to the story, they have some extras. They have a map of the area, so you can see on the map what areas they're referring to in the story. And there's also some text written by Sturm that kind of details the process of how they went about doing the story, and it's just a very, very nicely produced book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember seeing this at a local comic shop here in Columbia, and because I knew John was such a huge fan of Watership Down, the animated film, he even has soundtrack to it on an album, and
Yep.
I was like, "Oh, he's got to have this." I just knew you were going to just be blown away by it, and you were. So
I was. Thank you.
And then my number 3 book of the year is Jump Scare by Dark Horse Comics, written by Cullen Bunn, drawn by Danny Luckert. This is it's kind of this weird superheroine whose powers are related to all the different horror films she's a fan of. She can like recall them and like call upon the powers of all the different monsters or characters from the movies as part of her abilities. And her sister is kidnapped, and she has to go rescue her sister, only to find out that it was her parents who had her sister kidnapped in the first place because they wanted to get rid of her. It's like this most weird thing, man. So well, I'm not going to say much more about it because, well, we know that Chris is out, so Chris is going to talk about it a little bit here in a minute. That was my number 3. Go ahead, Chris.
All right. Yes, my number 2 of the year. And it was a toss-up between this and another book. But I absolutely loved this series. It was refreshing. It was different. Yes, and the main character is a horror movie freak. She just loves her horror movies, and she ends up with the power to instantly recall and create any weapon from any horror movie that exists. And of course, she's super strong, super durable. I think she regenerates. But her attitude, just the plucky attitude, the one-liners, and the dialogue actually stood out as well. So everything about this book was fantastic. If you are a comedy horror fan, or a fan of 80s horror, and a fan of comics, buy this book.
Absolutely. John's number 2 book.
Lilo and Stitch. So if you know me, you know how I love Stitch. He's my favorite Disney character, and I mean, I've loved him ever since the 2002 movie came out. So this was published by Dynamite, and Dynamite's done several Disney properties, adaptations of Disney properties, to varying degrees of success. But this is absolutely the cream of the crop right here. It's written by Greg Pak and illustrated by Julia Giacomino. And once again, they really understood the assignment. The artwork is just absolutely beautiful and on point. And one of the things I really liked about this book was this is a book that has Stitch going all over the world. So there are several various cultures represented, including, of course, the Hawaiian culture. And this series was very respectful to those cultures, which I absolutely really admired. In fact, they actually had a They actually had a cultural consultant credit in this series, and I think it really showed. And in my original review, I said this was one of the best things that Dynamite has published. Scratch that. This is hands down the absolute best thing I ever read from Dynamite.
That's high praise.
I think, well, yeah, it's high praise, but it's also pretty factual because, I mean, even the stuff that we tend to be okay with from Dynamite, we've always found like questions about why things were done the way they were done. I think the only other series that we didn't question was maybe Gargoyles, and that's mostly because it's written by the guy who created it. So, but other than that, I think every other Disney thing we've questioned why things were done the way they were done at one time or another, but not with Lilo and Stitch. Lilo and Stitch, they, like you said, they've been on point, and how they managed to do that, because it's not easy to balance the family Ohana elements with Lilo and her family versus the doctor who's going to lose his villain credibility if he doesn't do something evil. I can't think of his name, but
Jumba.
Jumba, thank you, because Jumba is not. He's sort of like this weird. He's kind of almost like an uncle in the family, but he's not.
Right.
So it's like it's weird the way they did that, but it works. It plays in with what they did in the films, and it's just done well.
Yeah, and in my opinion, the only way the art could have gotten better is if they had gotten Chris Saunders to draw it. Or Sanders, because I'm a huge Chris Sanders fan. So
yeah. And my number 2 book was Usagi Yojimbo, 10,000 Plums, of course, and Stan Sakai. We all know that I am I don't want to call myself the de facto Usagi Yojimbo fan. I'm sure people are more of a fan than I am. But yeah, I mean, how many times have I said this series is perfection?
A lot.
So, I mean, but that's number 2. What can possibly not be number 1?
I know, right? I thought the same thing. I'm like, what? Usagi Yojimbo is number 2? What?
This ought to be good.
You were expecting this to be number 1, were you?
Up there, yeah. Because I know you are. If you know Lewis, man, or Raven, you know he's a huge fan. So
okay, well, what is our number 1 books of the year then?
All right. I was a fashion school serial killer. What can I say about this book? Look, I know y'all are like, oh, all he does is horror, but this was just a fascinating book and a really, really, really unique take. I do love horror, but I'm always looking for something unique, and this was definitely that. The art style I loved, and I considered it a throwback to I can't think of his name, but another artist that I love. So the art style was perfection.
You're talking about the guy who does it's like Trad Moore?
Yeah, Trad Moore. Thank you. Yeah. For me, the art looks a lot like Trad Moore style, and I love Trad Moore. The story is absolutely unique, and enticing, and draws you in. There's simply nothing that I could find wrong with this book.
Well, I found things wrong, but that's me. I am the one with the critical analysis degrees and the I don't know social distemper. I don't know what it is, but I always find something wrong, right?
Right.
Anyway, but no, I am glad that one of the workers at the shop that John and I frequent here in Columbia, Scratch and Spin Records and Collectibles, Joey, who's sometimes in our chat room, was the one who recommended this to me to recommend to Chris. So he's like, "Yeah, Chris will like this. I just swear." I'm like, "Okay." And well, I guess Joey was right.
Yeah, it was definitely between this and Jump Scare for my top. So
yeah, I would have really. I mean, I would have put Jump Scare number one if I were you, but that's But I understand, like you say, I think you picked this one more because over Jump Scare because this had more drama to it, I guess, for lack of a better word, than Scare.
Mm-hmm.
Jump Scare is very much the one-liners and the punchlines and the
gore.
The gore. Well, not just the gore, but it's the comedy of it.
Yeah, the gore and the monsters and the comedy. Yeah. This is very much in the vein of like I Know What You Did Last Summer. Those sorts of quote unquote slasher movies. So
okay, what was John's number one of the year?
All right. Nestleverse, The Great Garloo. And this actually was one of my favorite issues of the year, too. Now, to speak to Nestleverse as a whole, again, this is from Nacelle Company, Oni Press, and the Nestleverse is a combination of RoboForce, Biker Mice from Mars, Wild West Cowboys of Moo Mesa, Sectars, and Power Lords. And I've liked all of the books that have been put out. Sectars and Power Lords to a lesser extent, but I've really liked RoboForce, Moo Mesa, and Biker Mice from Mars. But Garloo was the one character that I had never heard of before, and he was based on a toy from the 60s. But he's, Garloo is, monster character who gets caught up in all of the goings on, and it turns out he can change his size and he has a great singing voice. But this is the issue that really fleshed out his character. Gives us some backstory of his excuse me, his planet was destroyed, and he's basically, he's been an outsider, but he's got a really good heart, and just this issue just made me love this character, and this issue itself packs a lot of story, but it's got cameos from the RoboForce guys, from Biker Mice from Mars, but it's Garloo's story all the way, and I loved it. I loved it. It again introduced me to a character that I love. He's probably become my favorite character in the Nacelleverse, and I really, really hope he returns soon, because I just love the little guy.
Okay.
And that is a fantastic worm's eye view on the cover. You don't see that kind of perspective often on covers nowadays.
No, you don't. What was Chris's honorable mention, I had told you back when I reviewed this originally, this was going to be the best book of the year. This is Howl, Ahoy Comics by Lisa Whitney and Morissette. And it is about this weird 1960s science fiction story where she marries the science fiction writer to find out that he's been controlled by this alien invasion force, and then how many of them control who and whatever. It's got a Stepford Wives vibe to it. But what makes it so interesting is the fact that Elise Whitney is the daughter of science fiction writer Robert Sheckley. And this was almost sort of semi-autobiographical based on her experiences with her estranged father and her mother and what they experienced through their marriage and their separation and other things going on. And a lot of that is explained in the back text with the stories, but there's also additional content of stories that give the historical context of where the story takes place is based on actual places and actual events that occurred in time. And it was that kind of connection, that very deep personal influence of her life, putting herself into it, so to speak, that made the book so interesting for me and really made it stand out as unique on the market. And this is a person in Whitney, very underrated author in comics, also undersold as an editor. She was one of Vertigo's stronger editors. Who was, you always think of Berger and Bond. Maybe you think of Stuart Moore, but Whitney was right up there with them. And so I think getting to see her do something like this and really shine was really something to behold. And because her other works tended to get more commercial, I guess you could say, work tends to be overlooked for Marvel and DC. So I'm happy for this one.
Yeah, this very much comes off as a passion project.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So there you go. Those were our best books of the year. Oh, well, that wasn't what anybody expected to have happen, was it?
No. Well, now that I think about it, yeah, because again, if you know Lewis, you know that he loves his factual details, and a book like Howl that's just full of them and full of real moments, and or based on real moments, stuff like that. Like that's just right up your alley. So,
well, I told you though, way back when this came out, that this was going to be showing up at the end of the year. I told you it's going to be one of the top 3 in January when it first came out. And I was like, yeah. And that's why I was like, when you gave me your list, and I remember you liking this book so much yourself.
Right.
And it was just that, oh crap, I forgot. And it was like, oh, I was like, well, I was like, you can take it off. You can take one of your other books off. I was trying to convince you to put it up there, but not necessarily number 1. But I thought, like, because Pale Knight disappointed you so much at the end, I would not have been surprised if you had decided to make Pale Knight the honorable mention and put Howl at number 5. But
well, just the fact that I remembered Pale Knight and forgot that I had read Howl, so.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess. I mean, well, no, not necessarily, because you just finished reading Pale Knight, and Howl ended months ago.
Right.
Yeah, but, it's hard. I mean, and of course, we didn't mention a lot of stuff that probably should have been mentioned. We didn't mention a single Well, I guess we did mention a crowdfunded book because I mentioned Spacao.
Right.
But other than that, we didn't really talk about crowdfunding this go around. And someone asked me why already privately. And the reason I didn't get to that was because just time. And I thought there's a lot of people that read just the stuff that you can get in the stores. So we just went with the stuff that you can get in the stores. And I could always come back and see what was the best of 2025 from crowdfunding later. So we might do that. So anyway, season 6 is moving forward in 2026. But we don't know exactly what the format's going to be because, as John has explained, he's not going to have the money to go buy books very soon, thanks to what's going on.
At least as many books,
right? And so that might make a change in what he can contribute. Of course, you stepped down from doing comics reviews yourself, Chris. I don't know how you feel about returning, not necessarily like a whole bunch of books, but like maybe I don't know, if you find a book or every once in a while that you want to talk about, you can, but yeah, that's about it.
We'll have to see, because I'm going to be 2026 is going to be really, really busy year. So
yeah, and that's true for me too. I've been doing this podcast since 2019. And yes, I did take a year off because of some health issues and my dad's health issues and some other things that happened. So I was gone a lot. But the reality is it hasn't really done what it was meant to do. It has, but it hasn't. And so we have to switch focus, and I think some people are going to be very happy to hear this. It's going to be about me and what I do. And, people have been asking me, when am I going to put books out? Well, maybe 2026 will be the year. And, but we're going to be seeing a lot more live draw. We're still going to do reviews, but I just don't know. I don't know if I'm going to do it 3 and 4 days a week like I have been doing it. We're still going to cover the crowdfunding, and we're still going to interview creators. I'm still going to do the manga, but I'm not really going to explore much more than what I've already explored. We've still got Battle Angel Alita and a couple other books that I haven't gotten to that I own, but I'm not going to once I'm done with those series, I'm done with manga, I think. And so, there's that. But yeah, we got to get more into what Chris is doing with his partners. I might even be working with his partners. We don't know yet. We've talked about it, but we haven't really. We haven't sat down with everybody involved to discuss. Right. So there's other things that we just need to get done and resolve before we can really guarantee what we're going to do. So we might be starting season 6 a little later in January as we set everything up. But, we're also going to be doing a little change in the format. I think some of the reviews we might just do one book at a time or something to just keep them short. See if people want to watch 10 or 15-minute reviews instead of a 2-hour show or an hour show like we usually do, because a lot of people just don't seem to apparently have the time or interest to listen to us jibber jabber for that long. I don't know, but we'll see. So that's what season 6 is kind of shaping up for.
Well, the modern attention span is 30 seconds.
Yeah. So thank you all for watching once again. But yeah, we're moving forward with season 6, and this is going to be quite interesting because, I mean, we all need a change, and we all need I need a lot of different changes right now after Midnight passed away. As John knows, he came over to the house. You could see I was rearranging the whole house.
Mm-hmm.
And getting rid of stuff. So, I don't know what I want to get rid of yet. So we'll see where it goes. And we'll have an interesting start. Probably a couple weeks, maybe 3 weeks at the most, but we'll be back in January. So thank you for watching, as always. And if you want to reach out to me on social media, what's it doing? There we go. Facebook.LewisBrightRaven. And Facebook, we might be leaving Facebook soon. We might be going to a Discord situation. I don't know yet. Facebook has announced that they're canceling their what are those called now? The social groups?
Yeah, the chats, yeah.
Yeah, the social groups and chats. They're canceling them out after January. So, or in beginning of January, I think January 12th is when they're going to be gone for good. So we might be having a Discord ad. That's another change that we're looking at. Again, Twitter X, I don't really use it that much, but whatever. You see my art at deviantart.com/brightraven. You can see Chris's art at deviantart.com/fatboy73. You've been watching Quoth the Raven, Lewis Brightman exclusively on YouTube. Email quotheravenlbr72@gmail.com, or if I don't get you there, try me at lewisbrightraven@yahoo.com. You want to reach out to the baby new rear in the rear view mirror. It's ghthrowingstones@gmail.com. And is Throwing Stones coming back anytime soon?
I believe it is going to be, yes. David and I are talking about it. We've got some ideas, so.
Okay, because I know he's been dealing with his own frustrations over there, not getting what he thought would happen. And I could have told him that was what was going to happen if he'd listened to me, but he didn't. And it's not David's fault. It's the internet. I mean, I'm not going to go on a rant to that right now. We'll do that another time. But anyway, if you want to reach out to John, it's grayfigaro@hotmail.com. And so, any last things to say for the year for our viewers?
I just want to wish everybody a happy New Year. If you had a great 2025, I wish you a continuing happiness and joy. And if you had a crappy 2025, I hope 2026 turns it around for you.
I echo that and say also thanks for sticking with us this year.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. And that's all.
And rest in peace, Midnight.
Yes, rest in peace, my baby boy. I'm going to miss him. All right, folks. That's all for 2025. And it's not letting me do it. I got to do the other. Hold on a second. There we go. That's our goodbye for now. For the year. We'll take our bow. And with that, we'll see you next time. Quoth the Raven. Nevermore.
Nevermore.